Alright, so today we are going to be talking about how to create an emission material. And emission material pretty good when it comes to rendering a very high scene with a lot of lights, because instead of creating all those lights for your interior or exterior, instead you can use an emission material to just simply emit some light. And since we are using less lights and more emission material, we can reduce the number of samples we have in our scene, so we get a faster scene and less rendering time. So let's see, I have a simple scene over here with 3 lamps and a camera, and that's it, no light whatsoever. If I show you my IPR, you will see nothing. If I take a sky dome light, as you can see, it's a default scene. So let's go to the main camera, and now from here I'm going to start off by creating some material for my lamps, which will be a glass material. So I'm going to create a new material. Go to Arnold, standard surface, and let's make it a glass material. And I'll go to the shape and turn off the opaque. Alright, let's see now. So we have a simple glass which is looking nice. I'm going to do the same with this. Let me just first turn off the opaque for both of my objects, and existing material and AI stand surface. And AI stand surface. I'm just going to rename this to glass, so it's just easier for us. I'm going to create one more material for the whole line, although it's not necessary, but I will still do it anyway. Let's create a metallic one with, I guess, 5% of gray in it, and let's call this metal. Perfect. I'll do the same with this, metal and metal. Alright, so now the time comes for the emission shader. I'm going to delete this sky dome light, and if I render this scene, we don't see anything, probably because we don't have any lights. Now I'm going to go to my perspective view, and I'm going to select my bulb that's inside the object, and first thing I'm going to do is add a new material. Standard surface. Perfect. I'm going to call this emission. Alright, and we don't need any diffuse, we don't need any specular. You can keep it if you want, but it's not going to matter anyways. The next thing I want to do is turn this emission on. So if I hit my IPR and go to my perspective view, which is this view right now, and if I show you my debug mode, occlusion, as you can see, this is what we are seeing right now. So see what happens when I select an emission material. So I'm going to turn off the debug mode, and I'm going to make the weight to 1, and instantly you see some light going on. So this is pretty interesting thing when it comes to creating an emission material. You don't have to add an extra light when it comes to creating you can say a light material. So here is the weight, basically stands for the power of emission. If I increase the weight, as you can see, the power of emission increases. So I'm going to keep it to around 2 for now, and here we have color, so I'm going to give it something like this color, and that's it. So I'm going to stop this now, and let me just smooth this out. Just hit 3 on your keyboard. Alright, so I'm going to select this existing material emission, existing material emission. Alright, so let's turn this back on. Let's go to our main camera, and here we have an interesting scene where we can see our bulbs with pretty interesting results actually. Now if you go to your emission back again, here as you can see we have all this power, and as you increase the power, as you can see, you get more emission through it. You can definitely play around with the color and so on, and increase more emission if you want more light. And as you increase the power of the emission, as you can see, slowly the light saturates itself. It slowly becomes white and white. Since Arnold is an unbiased render engine, it is kind of like similar to the real world, so the emission here is perfectly calculated. Now the another interesting thing that you can do is, if you want, you can add a little bit of atmosphere to your scene to increase a cinematic result. So I'm going to make the density to 0.1 or something, and obviously it's not going to be emitting any atmosphere, or you can say fog or anything, because it's an emission material and not a mesh light object. So if I go to my main camera and update the whole scene, you'll see no difference. But to make a moody scene, what you can do is go to your perspective mode. I'm going to turn this off for now and go to Arnold, and let's take an area light. I'm going to bring this up and let's rotate this. All right, let's bring it around here and something like this, and let's turn this back on, and now we see something right from the left side. If I increase the exposure to something like 2, we see more light emitting through the left side. Let's make it 4, so we see some more of a light coming through. Let's make it 6. I think that's too much. I think I'm going to keep it to 4. So first of all, I'm going to increase the volume sample to 4 and the normal sample to 3, change the resolution to 1000, and the next thing I want to do is change the color temperature to a warmer temperature. You can also make it a cool temperature. It totally depends on your scene and up to you. So let's keep it around something like this, and also that's my hypershade. I'll go to my render engine, go to my atmosphere volume, and simply change the anisotropy to something a bit more, just so I have a more glowing light coming from. So I'm going to make it point from the left side and samples to around 12. Let's make the attenuation. I'll make the density to probably around 0.2 and attenuation to 0.100. And you can also change the color of your atmosphere, but it's better to change the color of your light instead, which kind of make your scene pretty interesting. So here we have the whole scene. Emission materials are pretty good when it comes to creating light objects. As I said, let me go back to my perspective scene, and I'll delete this light. I'll keep it and just turn this off. I'll select this and put all of this into a new layer, sorry. And now we have nothing, which is perfect. So let's take a plane with 0 divisions. Let's turn off the grid, and I'm going to take one sphere, and let's go to the front view, hit 4. All right, so I'm going to duplicate this, right, and I'm just trying to make a simple sphere scene. All right, let's hit 4. Let's just write about here. All right, so I have a kind of a scene around here. Now what I'm going to do is take this plane, and first of all let me just take my sky dome light so we know what we are doing, and let's take a perspective shape and update the whole scene. Alright, so sky dome light is not showing anything. We have to take a physical sun and sky. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is take a new material and stand surface, and what I'm going to do is make an emission material, or I can also use the same material I want for the earlier emission, but I'm going to go with a new one. Let's run this through, and I'm going to select a new material for my plane, which will be a complete metal material. Let's make it something like this. Yeah. I'm going to go assign a new material, and let me just show you quickly how you can create an interesting scene. And let's take a copper, let's take a jade, and I don't know, let's take something like a brushed metal, which is nice. So I have my emission material over here. I can increase the emissionness to something like 20, which will emit more light out of it, or maybe like 5 is good enough for me. And you can pretty much change the color of your whole emission material. As you can see, you have something like this. You can also use the same existing material you have right now for this to create a bunch of emission material. And there you go. So definitely play around with different types of color to get an interesting results. And that's it. Hope you like the video. Enjoy creating your own emission materials.